Hey folks, it's Denny Carter from NBC Sports Edge, powered by Rotoworld. Thank you for joining me for another waiver wire Q&A. This is our 9th waiver wire Q&A. I'm keeping track of both our Q&As and linear time. These are two things that I'm able to keep track. Let me take a sip from my NBC Sports Edge mug. We don't have a lot going on the waiver wire. Many are saying this, and more are agreeing. So I'm going to start with a 15-minute soliloquy on exactly what is going on with some of these teams that have driven us borderline insane with their lack of passing volume. Teams like the Jets and the Falcons, and to a lesser extent, the Giants, and recently the Baltimore Ravens, excuse me. I feel very, very autumny today. I'm wearing my fall guy sweater. I'm drinking my coffee. I just went on a walk through glorious fallen leaves, like you do when you're a fall guy like me. Stop calling me an Instagram influencer. I'm not. Okay. I just enjoy fall, which is exactly 15 minutes of nice weather and then 6 weeks of rain before the winter. Okay. Anyway, let's get back, because I wrote about this. So check out my waiver wire column for week 9 on NBCSportsEdge.com and see my intro on teams that really are well below their expected pass rate. Okay. Pass rate over expected really tells us which teams essentially want to establish the run at any opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean that they will be able to, obviously, every single game, as we saw last week with the Falcons. Sometimes teams are pushed into pass-heavy game scripts. That's very hard to predict. Okay, like who would have thought that the Panthers-Falcons game would have turned into a shootout? And if you believe that and you built DFS lineups based on that belief, well, congratulations on your millions in winnings. May I have some? Is my question. No. So we're talking about teams with the lowest pass rate over expected. The Bears are at the very bottom, then the Falcons at 31, then Tennessee, Cleveland, the Saints, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Niners, and then the Panthers. So these are teams that have pass catchers, both receivers and tight ends, who are going to be and have been very game script dependent. And we're used to thinking of running backs in this way, right? Well, this guy's going to need a lot of positive game script to get there for fantasy, right? His team's going to have to get out to a lead. They're going to have to be able to bleed the clock with a bunch of runs for this, for running back A, whoever it is, like Deontay Foreman going into week 8. That's kind of how we were thinking about it, because we weren't sure if he was going to get a lot of pass catching work or what exactly his role would be, but we knew he had the early down work. So we're used to thinking of running backs in this way. I think, we definitely need to start thinking about pass catchers in this way. I do see this, and this is a somewhat fair point. The stats on the Titans are skewed by 6 quarters of Willis. That's true, but we're talking about a team that has been among the run heaviest and most run first offenses since Ryan Tannehill got there. So I don't think I'm misleading folks that, saying that when Tannehill comes back, it's still going to be pretty run heavy. So we think of like Garrett Wilson. So you're thinking about picking up Garrett Wilson on waivers this week, the Jets rookie wide receiver. And honestly, I did not think, and I wrote about this, I did not think that I would end up writing about him again in the waiver column this year. I did not see that coming at all. I thought he would be 100% rostered or close to it for the rest of the season. But that was in the glorious Flacco era of Jets football, where they were dropping back 50 to 60 times a game and it fueled the kind of routes and targets that we need for players to get there for fantasy. You strip that away, and what you require then is an outlier performance. And but by the very nature of outlier performances, we can't bank on that sort of thing. So Garrett Wilson in the Zach Wilson run New York offense is probably going to have to get fortunate with a pass heavy script like we saw against New England last week, or score a couple touchdowns on his 4 or 5 or 6 targets, and then it looks good. In the final, the fantasy box score, it looks fine. Oh, hey, look, Garrett Wilson scored 20 points this week. He saw 4 targets, but he scored 20 points. That is not sustainable. So you have guys like Garrett Wilson, you have guys like Brandon Ayuk, who Ayuk is fantastic. Okay, you put him on a better offense, a pass first offense, and he's probably a wide receiver 1 in all formats. You put him on the Niners, and he's a wide receiver 1-ish or 2 when the Niners have to drop back and throw a lot. But when they don't, you're talking about wide receiver 3 to 4 category, right? And that's very, very tough to judge. So when you're making your waiver claims, and this was my issue with Rondell Robinson. I just said Rondale. Literally can't say this guy's name. Wan'Dale Robinson. This is the issue with him. So even if he became the Giants' unquestioned, clear-cut wide receiver 1, it's kind of like, who cares? Who cares? This team doesn't want to run. Okay? This team doesn't want to pass. The Giants, let's see, they have the 6th lowest pass rate over expected. They desperately want to establish, and that's fine. It makes sense. I mean, from a real football standpoint, that makes sense. Okay. Daniel Jones, not particularly fantastic throwing the ball. He's been good running it and been fine for fantasy of late. They want to get the ball to their best player, Saquon Barkley. We respect that. Brian Dable, if you're watching, and I know you are, we respect that. But it means that if the Giants play the way they want to play, Wan'Dale Robinson could have a nice target share, 20%, 25% target share. He could have 30% of the team's air yards. Probably not, because he's Wan'Dale Robinson. He's catching around the line of scrimmage. He could have a lot of peripheral stats that look good, and he could see 4 targets, 6 targets. That's tough. That's tough to work with. So you have to be cognizant of that as you are looking at guys on the waiver wire. I mentioned Khalif Raymond, okay, who has basically functioned as the wide receiver 2 in Detroit over the past 2 games for the Lions. Now, we're not saying that Khalif Raymond is better than Wan'Dale Robinson, but the Lions are terrible. Their defense is an abomination unto God. And I'm sorry for getting religious, but I had to. And so their offense is going to be forced into dropping back a lot, like we saw against Miami this past week, like we've seen many times through the first 8 weeks of the regular season. And that means that the trickle down effect of that phenomenon means that a guy like Khalif Raymond sees 7, 8 targets in a game, maybe more, depending on how crazy the script gets. So we just remember that as you go along with tight ends and receivers, because people are going to get excited about the Jets. They're going to, oh, hey, Garrett Wilson's back after his solid week 8 performance. Tyler Conklin, many are calling him a Conk Daddy. I don't call him that, but many are calling him that. It's disgusting if you ask me. Told my kids that, they were crying, literally weeping. What was I saying? Yes. So Tyler Conklin and Garrett Wilson, both of them, were fine last week, but that's because Zach Wilson had to drop back way, way more than the Jets ever want. And we saw why, because Zach Wilson stinks. Okay. So we need to just be aware of that. Let's get to your questions. You can check out my waiver wire column on NBCSportsEdge.com. I have a lot of stuff in there. We have, this great viewer's name is Bethany Q. Peters the 9th. Happy All Saints Day. Yes, same to you, Bethany. To continue my discussion off the top here, Chicago passing at the lowest rate is a good thing. Now they recognize Justin Fields as their RB1. Yes, and Justin Fields was the cover guy for my waiver column because, it's a slow week. And we don't often get a quarterback coming off waivers this late in the season. Okay, he's available in 60% of leagues, of Yahoo leagues. I think it's way more ESPN leagues and other formats. Who is rushing in the double-digit figures every week now. Really, really great usage, and he essentially is Justin Fields. Essentially is the Bears wide receiver. Or I'm sorry, running back one. So here's his recent rushing usage. 8 rushes against Minnesota in week 5. Week 6, 12 rushes against Washington. 14 rushing attempts against the Patriots week 7. And last week against the Cowboys, 8 rushes for 60 yards and a touchdown. He's also seeing a decent number of green zone rushes, meaning inside the 10-yard line, which are just incredibly valuable, okay, for any rusher, running back or quarterback. It's what has made part of what has made Lamar Jackson so potent for fantasy over the past few years. So you have a game here where, let's see, Fields completes 17 of 23 against Dallas, okay, which is not bad, only for 151 yards. So his adjusted yards per attempt was just around 8, which is not all that high. But he threw 2 touchdowns. He rushed for another. So 150 yards is horrific, unusable for most quarterbacks, but not for Justin Fields. So going forward, if you have Darnell Mooney, just know that Darnell Mooney is going to have 4, 5, maybe 6 chances to make a big play. And that's it. If the Bears play the way they want to play. In a blowout script, it may be different. But even then, it's not guaranteed. Like we saw with the Falcons against the Bengals 2 weeks ago. The Falcons were down by 1 million, and they were still establishing it. Like it's 1977. Started the 70s. But, it's pretty boring for football. So you're not even guaranteed with these run-heavy teams. You're not even guaranteed good stuff when they get down. All right, let's get to your questions here. All right, we have yes, David, our longtime viewer. Thank you, David, for joining us once again. Joining me, not me and my split personalities. Is there a tight end in Detroit worth rostering after the Hockenson trade? So for those of you who somehow don't know, did not get 13 notifications on your phone like I did, TJ Hockenson, for some reason, was traded to the Vikings. I don't understand that trade. I mean, Irv Smith will be back in probably like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But, this might say that Johnny Munt, who was the tight end 2 in Minnesota, maybe he's that bad where they were like, oh, God, we need to acquire TJ Hockenson, who was one of the most highly touted tight ends coming out of college in recent draft history. To answer your question, not really. Sorry, I'm looking up the Lions depth chart just to make sure that certain guys are on the active roster and not on the so Brock Wright would be the tight end 2 for Detroit. He's probably like a desperation streamer at this point. This is probably a boon for Amon-Ra St. Brown in the middle of the field. Might be for my guy Khalif Raymond, who knows. Maybe for DeAndre Swift, because Swift and Hockenson and Amon-Ra have kind of not battled, but they all get those same sort of short area intermediate targets. So with Hockenson gone, it could be good for them, but don't get too tied up with the Lions tight end situation. All right. Okay. We're talking about the Giants here. All right. Denny, help. Well, I had to click this because it's in all caps. I legally can't not click it. All right. Rushman says, Denny, help. trying to trade Jonathan Taylor for Aaron Jones or Ken Walker. That's a good idea. Am I aiming too high? If so, yeah, I mean, who in their right mind would give you Ken Walker or Aaron Jones for Jonathan Taylor? I mean, Taylor's ankle is not right. Against the Commanders this past week, he was on and off the field in the first half. He had his ankle retaped at some point in the first half. It looked like he might miss the rest of the game at one point. He was getting so much medical attention for the ankle, but he did come back in. He was very ineffective, as usual, for this season. So there's something wrong with the ankle. Now, the Colts' schedule does lighten up a little bit later in the season, and there has been talk that Nyheim Hines there reports, not more than talk, reports that several teams have inquired about trading for Nyheim Hines. If Hines were to leave Indy, that should open up more touches, hopefully more high value touches for Jonathan Taylor. It's just his health is not fantastic at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I'd want Ken Walker, I'd want Aaron Jones over Jonathan Taylor. You are aiming too high, though, obviously. Okay, the Bucks or the Vikings off waivers? This is a defense question. So the Vikings are playing Washington. The Bucks are playing the Rams. I think you just go with the Bucks. Like, I feel like it's just, kind of a, an easy play here to just stream defenses against the Rams. So go with Tampa. Here's a long one. I'm at a loss to do with what to do about Darren Waller's habitual disappointment. That's how my parents refer to my life so far, but I digress. Hey, you know what? I'm a fantasy football raider, so I get it. Taysom Hill and Greg Dulcich are out there as options. Should I try to trade Waller? I wouldn't drop him. Dulcich is probably a better option at this point. I mean, Dulcich has like a 90% route rate. He's kind of working his way up in the pecking order, the pass catching pecking order in Denver. I know the Broncos offense, passing offense particularly, is not exactly one we're targeting, but I think Dulcich is probably a better play, especially since Waller is clearly, if and when he plays, is going to be, not at full health, and Dulcich is. The Taysom question is interesting because Taysom is still my preference over the borderline tight end one guys, because Taysom has the same floor as those guys, which is, close to nothing, but his ceiling is honestly close to like the elites, the Mark Andrews, the Travis Kelce's, because he gets carries, he throws the ball, he sometimes catches the ball, he gets carries inside the 20. So I think, I think that there is a discussion to be had about starting Taysom Hill over a hobbled Darren Waller. If you can hang on to Waller, I think you should, but I don't think you need to cut him. Good luck with that. Mike White will be the Jets starter against the Patriots in Week 11 after the bye. Yeah, well, because and this person mentions Zach Wilson is how do I say this politely? He's going to struggle against the Buffalo Bills this weekend. It's going to be a massacre. I actually wish that this game had taken place on Halloween week, because I would have liked to make a bunch of scary Halloween jokes about how bad this game is going to be for the Bills. Nevertheless, we persist, and I will say that if Garrett Wilson is going to see, the aforementioned Garrett Wilson is going to see, a good game script for him, it's in this matchup. I struggle to see how Zach Wilson's going to get through this game. Mike White was bumped up to QB2 on the depth chart for the Jets just yesterday, just on Monday. So there will be no Joe Flacco season, unfortunately. Although Robert Saleh made the point to say, we love Joe. We just think he's not good. And we want to see what we have with Mike White. Well, you saw what you had last year, and it's not much. But Mike White would definitely be way better for Garrett Wilson and Conklin and everybody else in that offense, or the pass catchers, I should say, than Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is a fantasy killer in many regards. All right. Oh, here we go. Here's some pickup questions. Who do I get off the wire? Rondale Moore or Josh Palmer? So Mike Williams for the Chargers going to be out for the short term, at least definitely this week against the Falcons. Keenan Allen is not practicing. He never practices and he hardly ever plays. So Josh Palmer, if he's able to come back from the brain injury he suffered 3 weeks ago, could be the wide receiver 1 this week for the Chargers. I'm I have muted expectations, but we're talking upwards of like double-digit targets if that's the case for Josh Palmer. So I would want Josh Palmer. Rondale Moore, his usage is maddening in the most basic sense because Cliff Kingsbury 1 week will use him 80% on the outside where he's completely ineffective. And then the next week, 80% or 90% in the slot where he is, it turns out, incredibly effective, including last week against the Vikings when he went off. And he looked halfway dominant against Vikings defenders. So, banking on rational coaching is never an easy thing to do and usually is something to avoid, but especially when it is fake sharp Cliff Kingsbury, who, clearly doesn't quite know how to use his players to get the most out of his players. Rondale Moore being a prime example. All right, Chuba Hubbard or Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson, look, he had, since Heineke came in, Antonio Gibson has continued to split early down work with Brian Robinson, and Brian Robinson has not been good. Okay, great story. His comeback from the gunshots in August and everything. That really great story. But he has not been good at all as a rusher, mostly between the 20s. Robinson's fantasy value is almost nil, but Gibson has eaten into the route running and pass catching role of J.D. McKissic of late. Gibson had 7 targets, 7 catches for 50-some yards in week 8 against the Colts. McKissic had 5 targets, so they split. 12 targets is a lot for the running backs. Heineke's kind of, he's either checking down or he's chucking it deep, like very few intermediate throws. So Heineke should be good and has been good for Terry McLaurin. And I think he's good for Gibson if Gibson keeps this role. So Gibson is a far superior option here than Hubbard. Will Courtland Sutton ever be good again? Well, this is his thing, right? Like he has a few good games to start the season and then falls off the planet statistically. I don't really know. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is, over the past 4 weeks, is the wide receiver 1 in Denver. If you look at air yards, if you look at targets, it's Jerry Jeudy. It's his role. He's the number 1 guy, and Courtland Sutton is the more volatile boundary receiver who is not seeing the requisite targets or air yards or anything else to be a bankable fantasy option. So Sutton has fallen down, I think, into the wide receiver 3 range. The Broncos are slowly becoming a team that wants to keep the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands. Let's see, their recent pass rate over expected. In week 8, they had a 0% pass rate over expected. So it's just like right exactly where it was supposed to be. They were -2% in week 7, -4% in week 6. Actually, they've been under. Denver has been under their expected pass rate in 3 of the past 5 games after starting the season pretty pass heavy. So I think that's not a good development for Cortland Sutton, and not great for Judy, but Judy has emerged, and good for him. I don't have him on any team, so I am quite sad. Quite sad. Nyheim Hines was dropped to my league for some reason. Well, what are you going to do with him? He's just a contingency option. So here's the thing: prioritize Hines over Drake or Drake over Hines. This is the question. I wrote up Drake, and you can find him. I'll reset here. Thank you for joining the NBC Sports Edge Waiver Wire Q&A. You can find my Waiver Wire column on NBCSportsEdge.com, powered by Rotoworld. I mentioned Kenyon Drake as a pickup because Gus Edwards, at least to my mind, seems very iffy with a hamstring issue he picked up last Thursday against the Bucs. I point this way because Thursday is right over here, right behind my shoulder. Do you see it? Anyway, Drake is a good pickup now, a better pickup now than he was earlier this season because the Ravens are really, sadly, but truly leaning into the run. If you look at their pass rate over expected in recent weeks, week 7, they were minus 19% in pass rate over expected. 2 weeks before that, they were minus 3%. They actually had they were over their expected pass rate against the Bucs last week. But I think, when they desperately want to establish the run for whatever reason, that means possibly more volume for Kenyon Drake. So if you need someone for week 8, if you have to start one of these guys for week 8, you're not starting Hines over Drake. But if you want to stash, and especially with all this talk and these reports of multiple teams calling the Colts about Nyheim Hines, and Nyheim Hines he's got to land. Well, he probably will land in a place that has a better fantasy environment than Indianapolis, right? They just fired their offensive coordinator. Jim Irsay is running rampant in the Colts facility. His tweet was really something, by the way. Jim Irsay tweeted about the announcement about firing the Colts offensive coordinator, and I believe he had a thumbs up emoji. All right, we gave the pink slip to our offensive coordinator. Let's go Colts. So anyway, you're starting Drake this week, but Hines probably has more value long term. He definitely does, I would say. Let's see. This person has Darren Waller, stream Isaiah Likely with all the Baltimore pass catchers out, or Ingram in case Waller is out even longer. All right. Well, Isaiah Likely is not usable unless Mark Andrews is out. So let's just get that straight. And apparently the Andrews shoulder injury is not of the serious variety, although it definitely seemed somewhat serious the other day, but oh well. I'm not sad about it. I just thought for sure that Isaiah Likely was going to get some playing time as the tight end 1 in Baltimore. So Evan Ingram, I wrote him up as well. He's definitely a floor option going forward. Likely is a little more interesting, but yeah, I think you can start. I would definitely start Likely over Waller if Andrews is out. And I would think about starting Ingram over Waller, just period. Just because, Ingram has a locked-in role in that Jags offense. I will read you what I wrote about that since you are too lazy to do that yourself. So I said, Ingram is not quite as exciting as Dulcich or Likely, but he's become a reliable floor option in 12-team formats. He has 30 targets over his past 4 games with at least 6 targets in each outing. He scored a touchdown in week 8 against Denver. Ingram, incredibly, has the 3rd most tight end pass routes in the NFL, and I think should be rostered in well over half of leagues. So don't sleep on Evan Ingram. Don't ever do that. All right, let's get to more questions here, folks. Thanks for joining me for this waiver wire Q&A. If you have questions about some of the other guys who are, hot on the waiver wire this week, I may have talked about them again behind me earlier in the stream. So check that out. If you joined us late for some reason, why would you join us late? I start this at 1:00, and yet you weren't here. I was curious. What were you doing? Were you living your life? Were you working? Right. Okay. You were quiet quitting is why you're watching this. All right. Dan says, in a half PPR 12-team league, enough with half PPR. You got to commit. Okay. Our world it's a polarized world. You commit. You go standard scoring or PPR. You take a stand. None of this centrist nonsense, half PPR. You choose one. All right. My RB2 is either Devin Singletary or Khalil Herbert. Not a great week for, Barkley. Saquon's on bye. Obviously, the Giants are on bye. Should I try to trade for Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, you can drop Akers, but what? Who? I don't know who you would trade for Jonathan Taylor. Great thing about the Bears offense is that they're run heavy pretty much no matter what. And the only three guys who ever touched the ball are Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, and David Montgomery. Herbert emerged this past week. I believe he had, we are checking it right now. Oh no, I don't have it up. How did this happen? Man, that's really disappointing. Anyway, I think Herbert outsnapped Montgomery this past week against the Cowboys. He rushed 16 times, 99 yards, and 1 touchdown. Just incredibly efficient. Khalil Herbert, pound for pound, is like one of the league's elite rushers right now. And to the Bears' credit, you got to hand it to them. They seem to recognize that. Not that David Montgomery's bad. He's not. But he's not Khalil Herbert. Herbert outrushed Montgomery on the day against Dallas, averaged 6.2 yards per carry, had a 36-yard run that actually came back on a penalty. So it could have been an even bigger day. He scored the lone running back touchdown for the Bears in that game. I think you start Herbert over Singletary. I think he has forced himself into a fantasy relevant role, whereas Singletary, it's just, look, when a team like the Bills operates the way they want to operate, and this is the difference here. The Bills want to be pass first. They want to be pass heavy. Okay. And all the announcers, every announcer that does a Bills game acts like it's the first time they've ever watched the Bills. And maybe it is, which is a question I have sometimes. And they say, well, no, they have to establish it. They have to start running the ball. They have to run the ball. They're up by 10 points in the third quarter. This is what you do in the NFL. You hand it off. And your running back gets 2.5 yards on first down. And then you hand it off again, and he gets 3 yards. It's 3rd and 5. And then you check down, and you miss the first down by 1 yard, and you punt. That's what you do in the NFL when you have a lead. What are they doing? Why would the Bills keep throwing downfield? Why would they target Gabriel Davis 30, 40 yards downfield when they have the lead? You don't keep passing. What are you, insane? Are you not happy with a 10-point lead? No one's ever come back from a 10-point lead. You get up by 10, the game's over. They call it. The refs call it. Hey, 10-point lead, blow the whistle, game over. Teams leave the field. Everyone knows that. Yet the Bills keep throwing. They throw the ball all the time. And the difference is, I'm actually out of breath. The difference is, with the Bills is that they can do that games. They can run that sort of offense no matter what, right? Whereas, the run heavy teams, the Giants, the Jets, Bears, whatever, Cowboys, they're forced out of their preferred system. So the Bills can do this every week, and that limits Singletary, and you have to lop off 5, 7, 10 sometimes rushing attempts that Josh Allen takes himself. So it's just it's a really bad environment for running backs. Singletary can be useful, but I like Herbert. I'm sorry, I did not mean to take 15 minutes to answer that question. Whew. All right. Eckler, Etienne, Stevenson, you're listing a bunch of play. You listed every NFL player, and I'm supposed to sit one. So I'm sitting. Jeez. Stevenson? Yeah, man. Congrats on your amazing team. All right. Are there any waiver wire pickups you'd recommend targeting to start over Michael Pittman? Don't worry about Devontae Smith, man. He's fine. Sam Ehlinger is going to be absolutely horrific for everyone in the Colts offense unless they deploy some, very newfangled. This is what the Zoomers are saying all the time. Newfangled. I don't even know what it means. Offensive approach after firing their offensive coordinator. The thing with that is that Frank Reich has been calling plays all season. So I don't know how much change we can expect. But apparently the offensive coordinator for the Colts was, very much in charge of like scheming and like making a game plan for the coming week. And then I guess Frank Reich was calling the plays. I don't really know why Reich wasn't in on the actual planning for the game. It is a curious thing sometimes with head coaches who call plays. But yeah, Pittman's going to struggle from here on out. It's going to be bad. There's nobody on the waiver wire I would start over Michael Pittman, though, except for Josh Palmer, maybe. If Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are out, I would start Josh Palmer over Michael Pittman. There you go. Is Darrell Henderson droppable? Yes. We talked, Pat Doherty and I talked about that on the latest Rotoworld football show. Gabriel is not buying the Hawk stock. Thank you. What to do with CEH if he is not traded today? Is he supposed to be traded? I don't think he's supposed to be traded. Oh man, yeah, no, you can't be starting. No, you don't start Edwards-Helaire in a 10-team league. You can do better. You can do better. Definitely, you can do better with a flex. You can probably do better with a running back. I mean, if you're able to get like Deontay Foreman's still available in 20% of leagues. I mean, he's like a vastly better option than CEH. Trying to think of who else. What are the border? Kenyon Drake would be better this week for sure. If Gus Edwards is out. Oh man, there are lots of running backs, it turns out, who would be better than CEH. Khalil Herbert. I'd start Herbert 100 times out of 100 over Edwards-Helaire. Let's see. Trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for DeAndre Hopkins in PPR. This is tough. These are two, alphas to crush all alphas. I mean, but I guess I'd want Hopkins. I mean, Hopkins just has an insanely big target share over the past couple weeks since his return. I mean, it's close, but I guess I'd want Hopkins. But I mean, don't sour on Amon-Ra. I mean, he's going to be fine. He's still the number one pass catching target in the Lions offense by a long shot. I mean, CEH I think is droppable in some circumstances. You're definitely not playing him in 10 teams. You're probably not playing him in 12. Okay. Is Kirk Cousins going to be viable for the rest of the year as a starter? Yeah, sure. Why not? The Vikings offense is clicking, and that's analytics, folks. The word clicking. Let's see their pass rate over expected. Minnesota has the 6th highest pass rate over expected, trailing only the Chargers, Bucks, Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals. I just got a notification. Chase Claypool is being traded to the Chicago Bears. There's a lot going on, and it's folks, I'm going to need more coffee. Interns, hey, stop making that meme and you come over and give me more coffee. It's hard to find good help. All right, so I'll get to yes, Cousins. I think can be started in 12-team leagues going forward. Of course, you're not going to get the rushing stuff that you got in week 8, but nevertheless, he's a really fine and good, solid floor start with occasional ceiling. All right, Claypool's gone from Pittsburgh. I mean, the Steelers made Chase Claypool announce the drafting of his replacement. For those of you who don't remember, in the 2022 draft, Chase Claypool had to go up on stage during the draft and announce that Pittsburgh was drafting George, got that dog in him Pickens. Claypool, of course, has no dog, negative dog factor, and Pickens is the doggiest player in the entire league, maybe in the league history. So what did this do? What does this do? This is good for Pickens. And I know Pickens is coming off just a horribly disappointing performance against the Eagles. I know that, okay? He ran all the routes. He actually was like top 10 in wide receiver routes last week against the Eagles. 0 catches on 3 targets. What they won't tell you in the mainstream media, and I will tell you, as someone who works for the mom and pop shop, media shop, NBC, is that George Pickens actually caught a 25-yard pass that was called incomplete on the field, and then Mike Tomlin decided not to challenge it because Mike Tomlin's in-game decision-making is questionable. We'll call it questionable. So I think we'll see more opportunity for George Pickens going forward. Deontay Johnson will keep doing his thing where he gets 12 targets and does literally nothing with them. So yeah, it's good for Pickens. Claypool going to the Bears. Let's see. Claypool is unplayable in most formats as the presumed wide receiver 1 for the Bears. I mean, we just talked about this at the beginning of the stream, where some teams want to play a certain way, and I don't think acquiring Chase Claypool is going to change the philosophy of the Chicago Bears. It is bad for Darnell Mooney, I would say. Probably good-ish for Justin Fields. Justin Fields' prospects are looking up, folks. I mean, I love Justin Fields from here on out. He has a pretty good schedule, not great, but pretty good. What you're getting with Justin Fields really right now is like 85% Lamar Jackson, and you're getting it off the waiver wire. And that's not an insult to Lamar. Lamar's, he's crushing it this year for the most part. I know there have been some recent struggles, but Lamar is fantastic as always. But Justin Fields is I guess people are maybe a little bit. The kids are calling shook, traumatized over how bad he's been last year and then this year while he was not being utilized properly in the Bears offense. Well, now he is. He is now. Now he has Chase Claypool, so it's over. I'm kidding. I mean, Claypool makes a little difference, I would say. Definitely an upgrade over like Equinemius St. Brown. Equinemius, I'm sorry. Okay? Please don't be mad. Please don't stop watching the stream because I insulted you. Okay. Whew. Again, I'm out of breath. I have Herbert, and I am starting him over Jonathan Taylor. That's a little risky, but okay. If Kyren Williams plays this week, do I start him over David Montgomery in the flex? No. Nope. The Rams backfield is a nightmare for fantasy. It's a regular nightmare and a nightmare for fantasy. You have 5 guys. I can't even remember all their names. Well, we have Cam Akers, Malcolm Brown, Ronnie Rivers, who's a real player, Darrell Henderson, and Kyren Williams. 5 guys who may or may not be active on a given week. You have Malcolm Brown, who's been operating as the goal line back, amazingly. You have Darrell Henderson, who has taken basically all the passing down work. Ronnie Rivers was the lead early down back. So you have Kyren Williams stepping in, and I mean, unless the Rams are just ready and willing to say, okay, Kyren, this is your show. This is it. Like we're plugging you in. Let's do this. You haven't played since week 1. The guy suffered a 2-month ankle injury. I've never heard of such a thing, unless it was broken, but it wasn't broken. It was a sprain that required surgery. What? I'm sorry, as someone who picked up Kyren Williams, I'm disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. And so unless Sean McVay says this is your show now, this is your backfield, Kyren, it's going to be he has basically no floor and certainly no upside. Also, the Rams don't run the ball. Also, the Rams have the worst pass blocking offensive line in the entire league per Pro Football Focus. So I don't know what there is to get excited about with Kyren or anybody else. Someone is screaming at me to answer their questions, but I'm sorry, man. I'm scrolling. Oh, here we go. I will answer your question, person. Any waiver wires out there? Oh yeah, no. Okay, I already answered this. All right, let's get to more. Do I use my number 3 waiver wire waiver pick on Fields? Yeah. It's Fields over Russell Wilson. Yes, that's right. Trade Godwin for Pickens. No. Raymond, think about what you've done. You've proposed. Come on. You proposed picking up George Pickens, who has that dog, and I love George Pickens. I'm a huge fan of the dog in him. I actually don't like dogs. I'm not a dog guy. I do like one dog, and that's my dog. That's it. You're talking about trading the wide receiver 1 for the pass heavy Bucks for George Pickens. No, let's not get crazy now. Okay. All right. What do we got here? What else do we got? Rams won the Super Bowl and said, forget this season. Okay. I know we only have 13 minutes. I'm going to get some more questions, but real quick on the Rams. Look, after the Super Bowl, that was the perfect time for everybody to step away. Everyone. Stafford should have retired. McVay should have retired. Aaron Donald should have retired. The GM, Les Snead, retired. Just be done with it. Like, you got it. You did it. You got to the mountaintop. It's only downhill from there. They don't have a first round pick for 25 years. They're done. The Rams are done forever this year and forever. They're going to have to be moved back to St. Louis at this rate. Greg says Drake or Juju this week. Yeah, go with Juju. Juju says he's been playing a lot of what's the game the kids play? The game where everybody shoots everybody. What's that called? Somebody tell me. COD. What? Call of Duty. Yeah, Juju's been playing a lot of Call of Duty with Patrick Mahomes. Adjust your ranks. No, seriously, Juju's a good play. Is Lamar or Burrow the cutoff line? Oh, yeah, maybe. I mean, you're definitely starting Burrow, and well, man, Burrow without Chase is tough. No, you're starting Burrow with over Fields. All right. What wide receiver is a good late of see? That's a very specific question, Rob. I'd have to look into it. My interns, answer Rob's question right now. Is Kadarius Toney worth a look this season? Yes, I actually wrote him up in my waiver column, which is on NBCSportsEdge.com. You can check that out there. Look, Kadarius Toney was incredible in yards per route run and targets per route run last year in limited action. I have a feeling those hamstrings are going to feel a little better in Kansas City. I have read, on different blogs and different places of the internet, the air in Kansas City is actually good for the hamstrings. Okay, so we should get him back on the field soon. I think Andy Reid knows what he's doing. This is my, humble yet bold opinion of Andy Reid, is that he knows what he's doing. He's going to see that Kadarius Toney is quite good, and he's going to get him integrated into the offense. I don't think that he becomes a target hog or anything. I mean, it's still Travis Kelce's passing attack. But yeah, I think he's worth the stash for sure. Do I trade George Kittle and Christian Kirk for Lockett and Herbert? Well, does it have to be Herbert? I mean, wow, I wouldn't want Herbert. Guys, the Chargers offense, the Chargers analytically run offense is dead last in the league in expected points added per play, in EPA per play. Dead last. Man, that's down bad. Brandon Staley is a sleeper agent who has been sent to the NFL to end the analytics movement. This is clear now. I'm just seeing it for the first time. This is awful. My God. No one's going to pass the ball after this year. Teams are going to go back to kicking field goals at the 1 yard line on 4th and goal. Thanks, Brandon. Anyway, I'd much rather have Lockett over Christian Kirk. If that answers your question, yes, I would try to acquire Lockett. I guess I would do this trade. Sure, I would do this trade. All right, I have CPAT possibly coming back this week. Yeah, maybe not. It's hard to say. I have Gus, Eno, and Pierce. Who do I drop to make? Well, if you mean Damian Pierce, you can't mean Damian Pierce. Is there another Pierce? Alec Pierce? You have to hold on to Damian Pierce. Drop Eno. Who cares? Who cares about like a third string running back who sometimes gets some run? 10-person half PPR. I have Diggs. Again, I want you to choose between PPR and standard leagues. No waffling between standard and PPR. No more half PPR. You make a stand. You choose your side. All right. I have Diggs, but I also have Sutton, Kirk, Cooks, and Wan'Dale, so I'm getting killed at wide receiver. Should I trade Madison to the Cook manager for Garrett Wilson? Man, that's tough. Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? If the person who drafted Cook is willing to take that trade, I would do it. Just traded Damian Pierce, Alan Lazard. Oh man, that's a lot. That's a lot going on there. I like the McLaurin and Jones side there. Will Connor be at least a good RB2 if he's ever healthy? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, he should resume a role where he gets plenty of checkdowns. That Arizona offense, as bad as it's been for some people, has been good traditionally for the guy who gets most of the workhorse. I'm sorry, the backfield work. And Connor has been a workhorse before. Yeah. Keep the faith a little bit with James Conner. Hopefully he gets right physically. Yet Eckler has like 10 touchdowns. Right. Yeah. Eckler's the only bright spot in that offense. Carr or Dalton rest of season. I don't have the strength of schedule in front of me, but I actually would lean Dalton at this point. Let's see. Trade CeeDee Lamb and Mostert for Dalvin and Madison. My other wide receivers are Waddle, Juju. So it's okay. Listen, Francis, I forgive your glitchy phone from the bottom of my heart. By the way, with this sweater on, it looks like I should have like a glass of brandy and a cigar, right? It looks like I'm relaxing after work, when in fact I'm working. I'm grinding your questions. As per usual, trade CeeDee and Mostert for... No, I don't like that. Stop. Okay. I'm not going to get mad at this person. I'm going to simply say that fantasy managers desire to lock down entire backfields. I got to get both running back 1 and running back 2 just in case. You are clogging up your bench. You're killing your roster depth by doing that. Unless it's the very end of the season, okay? like last 2-3 weeks of the season, I think then it's okay to sort of consolidate those backfields when possible to pick up the running back insurance. That makes sense. Okay. But we're still early. We're still early. Week 9. Okay. We're keeping track of linear time. That's what we do on this show. First and foremost, I look at the time and I say, well, now today's week 9. Last week was week 8. Next week, week 10. I know that off the top of my head. So don't consolidate yet. No, I don't like that trade. All right, we're going to do a few more. We have about 4 minutes. 4 minutes left. Oh no, someone thinks I'm wearing a robe. No. It's a nice sweater. Oh, I'm not wearing a robe. Come on, look. It's a nice sweater. Dang, man, robe. Like I just walked out of the shower. All right. What do we have? Eli Mitchell handcuff. So yes, Elijah Mitchell. I wrote him up in my waiver column, which you can find at NBCSportsEdge.com. He is nothing more right now than a contingency back, meaning he has no role in an offense that has been and will be dominated by Christian McCaffrey. This is Christian McCaffrey's ship now. Okay, he is, per sources, the captain. I don't want to say it's over for everybody else in this offense, but it's pretty close to over for everybody else in this offense. I would guess Elijah Mitchell would be next in line to see carries and possibly pass routes and targets if McCaffrey misses time down the stretch. But McCaffrey, turns out that the consensus number 1 overall pick in fantasy is going to be a league winner. Low T robe. I'm literally never wearing this again. I mean, not just on, it does look like a robe. Not just on the stream, not just in I'm never wearing it again. I'm going to burn this thing after the show. It's a cardigan. It's a cardigan. Come on. It's not a robe. Jacob, I'm not wearing a robe. My interns won't even get me a cigar. It'd be pretty cool if I smoked a cigar on a stream, wouldn't it? I feel like I'd get in trouble for that. We're not going to try it out. We're not going to test that. Don't smoke, kids, if you're watching. It's bad for your lungs. The lungs are not good there. Okay, JT McKenzie. Oof, this is a heck of a. Okay, Jonathan Taylor, Isaiah McKenzie, Taysom Hill for Mike Evans and George Pickens. I can't even think. Jonathan Taylor, McKenzie, Mike Evans. I would want Pickens and Evans. Okay, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Right. Yeah, right. I look like the dude. Devastating. I look like Hugh Hefner. This is, I mean, I'm being the viewers are destroying me. I'm never wearing this thing. It's fine. You know what? It's coming off. It's coming. You guys are going to see the full David Bowie t-shirt that I'm wearing. I don't care. I can't tolerate this anymore for the final minute of the podcast. It's coming off. There. Are you happy? I'm not Hugh Hefner anymore. I'm wearing my Bowie t-shirt. All right. Start Montgomery, Herbert, or Edwards, Elair. Herbert. I think you start Herbert there. He's just been so much more efficient with his touches. All right. No, we're not. I'm not taking off any more clothing. That's it. It was just the robe. Not the robe, the sweater. Oh God. Oh, I'm tilting. Okay. Let's see. Any more? Oh, trade. Oh my gosh, this is an incredible question and not an entirely crazy one. Trade Foreman for JT. Yes, you do that. Yes, you do that. All right, folks, that'll do it for me. Let's. There's a dynasty question: PPR Pickens, or I would rather have George Pickens in PPR, especially if your team needs more dog quotient. He has that dog in him. Thanks, folks, for joining me for the Week 9 NBC Sports Edge waiver wire Q&A. You can find my column on NBCSportsEdge.com. You can listen to me on the Rotoworld Football Show. You can find me on Twitter.com @CDCarter13. I am not verified, and it'll stay that way. Goodbye.